What is up, YouTube? Second channel round back again with a brand new video. And today we're back with another episode of the month of EVO series. And for this episode, we will be taking a look at one of the many Street Fighter 2s there are out there. I said I was going to do one, and I just figured I'd do it. Just get it out of the way right now. I don't know if I'll do another one. Maybe or maybe not. But this is the first and maybe only one. So let's take a look at one of the, I guess, kind of like one of the cooler versions of SF2, Hyper SF2. So, also I am joined by my son here. He's just looking at me while I was setting up to record, so I figured I'll just carry him, hang out. But anyways, so what is Hyper Street Fighter 2? And what is the difference between this and the rest? Because there's like at least 10 different versions of SF2. Just to name a few off, we have the OG, we have Hyper SF2, we have Super SF2, Super Turbo, Champion Edition, Ultra SF2, HD Remix, and what else? There's probably a few more that I'm missing, but today we're talking about just Hyper SF2, which is currently available on the Capcom Fighting Collection 1, which is how I'm playing it. I don't know where it might have origined from, but this is where we will be checking it out. So what is a Hyper SF2? And what's the deal? What's the difference? So Hyper SF2 is Street Fighter 2 with the roster of the new challengers, which contain the main eight, the four villains, which is Sagat, Balrog, and Bison and Vega. But it also contains the new challengers, which is Fei Long, Cammy, DJ, and T-Hawk. They have the whole big roster as we've seen last year with Ultra SF2. It has just the new challengers as the latest characters. So gameplay wise, this is the kind of like the big thing about this version of SF2. It's kind of like an Ultra SF4, if you remember, where in Ultra SF4 you can play as different versions of said characters. So like at the final version of SF4 you can play as like base SF4, arcade mode, SF4, Super SF4, arcade mode, Super SF4, Ultra 4, and then the Omega mode. Here's sort of the same thing. You can play as any version of the SF2s. So you can play, like an example, Ryu from SF2 base, Ryu from Super SF2, from Hyper Fighting, from Turbo and Super Turbo, and Champion Edition. And there's 5 different versions you can choose from. I think I mentioned a 6th. I don't remember. These are all different runs. The point is, you can play as different versions with each character. So like, most infamously, the 4 main villains. They're really good in base SF2, and then you can play them against like a Ryu or a Shoto who's like has a super. Because I think in Super Turbo, I think the last one that you can do is where you get an ultra, like a level 1, which you can do. And yeah, so like you can do moves that are in different versions, and that don't apply to every set of versions. Like Ryu can do like a half circle fireball that's not in base SF2, but in different versions. And also, depending on what you choose your version first. If you choose like base SF2, you cannot play any of the other half of the roster, which is the 4 villains and the 4 new challengers. And then you can play Champion Edition, you can play the villains, and then you play the other 3, you can play the other 4, the new challengers. So Off-road, that's a very cool gimmick, in my opinion. You can basically just choose the peak version of each character. You can give a character a super. You can just, if you're very aware of these SF2s and you know the gimmicks of it, you basically know like, oh, they can play this top tier against another like a noob online or something. I don't know. I know like in terms of like how good a character is, I'm not exactly like that aware of my fighting game knowledge. I just know like the obvious ones. Like I know the villains are pretty good in their OG games. Plus, you can get supers in the new version, Super Turbo, I think. So that's quite a good perk. Um, Plus, they also even like, I know this is kind of like not even that big, but depending on what, kind of like as a Capcom vs SNK2, where depending on what groove you choose, it like shows what artwork is displayed, and that's kind of the same thing. Like, you get to see like OG SF2's portraits or the new ones, depending on what version you choose. And that's like same thing as the SVC, I mean, not SVC Chaos, CVS2. But yeah. So obviously that's kind of like the big thing about Hyper SF2. You can kind of choose whatever you want. Actually, I'm not even sure this is the real name. I need to stop calling it. But you'll see the thumbnail and you'll see the title about what it is. I know it's Hyper something. It could be like Hyper Super or something like that. I don't know. Again, Hyper, Turbo, Champion, and Super are all like names tossed around in the Street Fighter games. Like you've seen that with even SF4. There's Super SF4, Ultra SF4, Super, Hyper, Turbo, Ultra. You know, many different ones. So that's kind of the big thing about Hyper SF2, where you can choose different versions, which is pretty cool. And then obviously this carries on to Ultra 4. I don't think this is a feature in SF5 and definitely not in SF6 or in any of the 3s. So it's quite cool. Now content-wise, it's obviously, well, this is the collection version, which has 3 different modes. It has arcade mode, versus mode, and what's it called? Training mode. So obviously, arcade mode, you know, the classic old fighting game. You just go down the line, go to each country. You know, if you played an SF2, you know what like the arcade mode is about. And then versus, I'm assuming, just one-on-one, or yeah, one-on-one battles as you please. And our training mode, I think, is probably new to this, where they added it. So you can it's training, you just fight. When I first loaded in, it surprisingly shows you like the hitboxes and stuff off rip, which is quite cool. So if you're really a geek on that, you'll get all your stats in. I don't remember. Again, I'm just checking it out. Compared to the other 2 versions I tried out for the channel already, which is Base SF2 and Ultra SF2, it's kind of like neck and neck with Ultra. Ultra's my favorite version of SF2 just because the big roster, the large amount of modes, the visuals look great, it's a fun game. Obviously SF2 is a go as well, but this is kind of like in between there because you get multiple different options of characters, which is pretty cool. Roster is pretty good as well. I think Akuma could be a secret character, I don't remember though. Because it just has Champion Edition, which Champion Edition is where Akuma appears, I think. It's either Champion Edition or Super Turbo, one of those 2. But both of those versions are in there, and that's where Akuma appears. Because I think after the game Akuma came out in, he basically appeared like a secret character. Even in like the Alpha series, he's like that. I don't think he's like that in SF3. He's just a playable character in SF3. 4, you have to unlock him, and then 5 and 6 he's DLC. But yeah, he's probably in there. I probably should have tried it out. But yeah. So again, visually, this version is I think it's straight like a port from like the arcade or something where it came from, because very feels like that, honestly. But the Capcom Fighting Collection is a pretty cool thing as well. It's just a very pretty menu, very cool artwork, very smooth, very quick. Um, the Fighting Collection itself, the game itself, it looks like your SF2. It's not as visually appealing as its later versions like HD Remix or Ultra 2, but it's pretty cool either way. It's a classic. The 8-bit art, yeah, the 8-bit style art. But portraits look cool. The artwork look even better. It seems like they transferred those over to the Ultra version when it eventually comes out. But yeah, I don't know if I don't. It probably has not been at EVO. This version. I know a few SF2s have been. I just don't know which ones. Because when I went to EVO, there was actually like a whole timeline section, and each like it was a timeline and it showed like each year about the games that were there plus the winners of those tournaments. And I remember like the very first EVOs, there was a few SF2s, so I just don't remember which ones it was. But yeah. Now, as for the next video, I probably am thinking about doing a Darkstalkers game, because this collection like has 4 of them. And I was thinking, I should have just done Darkstalkers today, and then do SF2 tomorrow. Because Darkstalkers, SF2, Darkstalkers, I guess SF1, Darkstalkers, Alpha, Darkstalkers, something else. But yeah. So I'm thinking about choosing a day out of the month, maybe the last day, to just do my EVO experience, because I really want to talk about that. And yeah. Also, let me show you guys something now that I'm here. Bit of a spoiler. I got this cool bag at EVO. It says Capcom Fighting Collection 2. I wish it came with the game, but obviously that happened. But yeah, that's just a bit off topic. Now that we're talking about the first Fighting Collection. But whatever. Kind of a shorter video because it is just SF2, and we have talked about 2 SF2s already in the past. But yeah, that's it for this one. Also, that guy that commented on my Melty Lloyd video, if you're watching this, that comment meant quite a bit. Thank you for that comment. And yeah, that's about it. See you guys tomorrow for Darkstalkers, probably. Goodbye.